Let's see if I can get this one open on the first try. Oh my God, I don't know why. I bought this new cans of beers and I don't know why I can't get them open. It's kind of embarrassing. The last week episode for you that are listening, you probably did it. But let's go. Let's give it a try. No more excuses. I had to edit out the intro from my last podcast because it took me like a good 60 seconds to open that can of beer. It's embarrassing. But anyways, great for you today, guys. I got one of my favorite kayak bass fishing anglers, and somebody that I think finally is getting his dues as far as putting some respect to his name. We're going to be talking a lot about that, and also about his latest win at Guntersville. And of course, I'm talking about the great Eric Siddiqi. I just met Eric Siddiqi now on the post-recording, but everyone that I've talked to, Jackson Orr, Guillermo Gonzalez, Matthew Scotch, Christian Fisher, has nothing but great things to say about Eric Siddiqi. So I was really excited to have him on the podcast because it's, when you have good people on the podcast, it makes it even more enjoyable to enjoy the recording. So he had a big win at Guntersville. Of course, he won the national championship, signature win right there. And we're going to be talking a lot of bed fishing and a cool story about beers. So I already told him he's in the Bass Kayak and Beers Hall of Fame. But anyways, short intro. We'll get right to it. Before we go to the Waypoints commercial, be sure to check out Douglas Outdoors. Go to douglasoutdoors.com. Sponsor my podcast. Huge thanks to them for their support. Go check it out. Great rods. Fly fishing, LRS rods for spinning and bait casting, and the X Matrix rods, which is their signature lineup for bass fishing. So go check it out. douglasoutdoors.com. We'll go to a quick commercial, and then we'll bring Eric Siddiqi right in.
Ready.
So anyways, Eric, thank you so much for joining me. I see if you can move a little bit to the left. Let me show off those left or right, whatever you want. But let's see some of those trophy cases.
Oh, yeah. That's just from this year. So
just from this year.
Yeah, there's the Kbf one. That was Queen City on Santee Cooper. Of course, the Bassmaster Championship. Second place in the Pro Series and Big Bass at Santee Cooper. So.
Yeah, I like how you have that kind of like diverse, kind of like a little bit from everywhere. Kind of shows what a great angler you are, not just winning in your quote-unquote horny holes or home lakes, but winning all around. You actually live in Cincinnati, right? Or in Ohio?
Yeah. Cincinnati, yep. That's where I'm from.
How's the fishing up there right now?
It's never really any good. If you could catch fish here, you can catch them anywhere, I always say. So I think that's probably helped me being able to travel to Great Lakes like Guntersville and stuff. It kind of makes it easy. Just coming from an area where it's not easy to catch them.
For somebody that's never been to Ohio in general, like myself, what's the predominant tactic? What are the lakes like? This is like rocky lakes, grassy lakes?
There's a little bit of everything. Some of my favorite lakes are gravel pit lakes around here. And there's a couple close by. You can't really fish them anymore, but it's one of the things that helped me when I first started out. There's two lakes close to each other. One's a lot of wood and rock and stuff, and the other one's has a lot of hydrilla and grass and stuff in it. So depending on where I was going, I could kind of pre-fish by going to one or the other. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything here.
Nice. Definitely gotta go check it out. Well, if you're saying it's not ever good, then I may not check it out.
Yeah.
Anyways, man, congratulations. You've seen behind you. You've had great success this season. We kind of were talking the pre-recording. There was, in my opinion, right, and this coming from somebody that haven't previously talked in person with you till now, but just kind of laying the landscape, right? As a podcaster, I always like to, take part in tournaments. And read and check out tournaments, bios on each tournament, like yourself, or anglers like yourself, see how they're doing, when they do great, what lakes they do great, and all that, and get a feel for who's some of the best out there. Because a lot of times we get caught up in what have you done for me lately. We get overreact to one win and all that, but we forget the tournament season is a marathon. It's not about winning one tournament. I mean, winning one tournament can get you the TOC or the national championships and stuff like that. But it's really about the longevity of it. It's a marathon. It's being consistent and being there. In the thick of it when it comes to the Angler of the Year race. And I've always said, and talking to other anglers within the small group of national level tournament anglers, and by that I mean the anglers that actually travel the states, like yourself, going from one tournament to another, KBF, Hobie, Bassmasters, few names come to mind: Russ Snyder's, Jack Snore, Guillermo Gonzalez, Christian Fisher, and a whole lot more. All right, but everybody seems to agree you're a great angler. For those that small group, but for those that kind of like just don't travel, but just see the results, and we focus on who won and all that, it seems kind of like an unknown, right? Like Eric is not a household name, but the reality is you're one of the best anglers out there. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. Your name has come up on different conversations within the podcast and just private conversations. Now, you were left out, we're talking about it, out of the KBN top 25, because you didn't fish much last year. Felt like there was a little bit of disrespect there, maybe. I'm not saying there was on purpose or anything, but there might have been like a fire, brewing underneath that said,
Yeah.
that might have kind of like made that big national championship just a little bit sweeter for you. And kind of your claim to say, and I'm not saying you're saying this, I'm saying the way I view it, I would be like, if I was Eric Siddiqi, is like, let's put some damn respect in my name now. I've won this. It's time I get my, my recognition. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I actually had a buddy coming to me and tell me that I got left off that list, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I just have to go win the Bassmaster Championship. And so when I went and did it, he was pretty.
Proven wrong.
Yeah, he's
a respectful middle finger to the guys of the king.
Yeah,
right?
a little bit. Yeah, I told him I was gonna make a list of a list of lists that judge bass anglers and which lists judge bass anglers in the worst way or something like that, and put them at the top of the list. So
That's the judge. That's pretty cool. How did it feel for you personally to win, that tournament?
and it was amazing. I've dreamed about that moment for a long time, and I've been watching Bassmasters since I was a kid, but not just that moment, but since I started kayak fishing, just dreaming about having that big win. Ever since my first big tournament when I fished the Kbf Championship on Kentucky Lake, I've dreamed about getting up there and holding up that big trophy. And that big win, has kind of eluded me over the years. I've had a lot of success, but that big championship win, I haven't been able to get my hands on one of those trophies till now. So it feels really good to finally get that done. It feels like finally getting some of the recognition that I feel like I've earned over the years.
Definitely earned over the years. Do you feel like at all like monkey off your back kind of thing, or do you feel like more pressure to perform from now on?
No, it feels. I've always felt confidence is a huge thing, so I've always been pretty confident that I could win anywhere I go. Otherwise, I wouldn't travel to all these tournaments like I do. But it definitely feels like a weight's been lifted. Now that I've got that big win, and I think it's going to help me the rest of the year fishing. I have a lot of confidence that I'm going to be able to handle my business this year, and um, I feel pretty good with anywhere I go that I have a chance to win. So, I mean, I don't consider myself a great springtime fisherman, and I've had a pretty good spring, so I'm looking forward to the rest of the year.
That's a good point, and I was actually gonna touch on that because in my previous recording with Cody Milton, we kind of talked about, he is one of, if not the best at, springtime fishing. That's where bread and butter. That's where he earns his stripes, kind of thing, and all those quotes that we can insert there. And it came to a point where is it like pressure to perform? For him, was it he felt like, okay, I need to shine in the spring because come summer or winter, that's not where I'm good at. If I don't do good now, then it's not going to be a good season for me. Do you have a season that you feel like, either, post-spawn, pre-spawn, winter bite? Do you feel like there's a season where you're like, okay, I'm confident that in the year I'm going to that I'm gonna get some hard earned some cash?
I feel pretty good in the post spawn time and really in the summer when those bass move deep. I have a lot of confidence fishing deep. I'm pretty good with my electronics and stuff, so and I feel like it's made it a little bit easier for people with the live scope and stuff like that, being better at fishing deep. But I have a lot of confidence, and I know what I'm looking at and what I'm looking for, and I can find the fish when they move offshore. So summertime, I feel like is gives me a good chance to win a lot of times.
And that's a good segue into what I want to ask you now, because you mentioned you're good in the pre-spawn and then in kind of post-spawn summer, right? Guntersville was purely spawning, right? So
Hmm.
it was not your strength. It's not something that you're generally accustomed to doing, but yet you won that tournament. Now, you're riding that wave of momentum, where the season where you would typically struggle, now all of a sudden you gotta win. And I can only imagine what's gonna do for you the rest of the year now, because grabbing, you're in the pole position in a lot of ways when we're talking about ranking. Um, and yet your best part of the season is yet to come. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like with Guntersville, did that just give you more confidence moving forward into the season that you're gonna do something like epic on this year?
Oh yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, especially being in the house with Cody and Christine and everybody this past week. I know like we talked about, Cody's an amazing springtime fisherman, and he came in right behind me in the pro series. I came in second, he came in third in
Yeah.
the pro series. So just being able to beat a guy like that who I know has a ton of experience fishing spawning fish and fishing in the spring, and how good he is. Uh, if I could, it feels like if I could beat him there in that type of tournament, then I feel like, and he's one of the guys where you're always looking. You had a good tournament if you beat him or
Yeah.
Russ or Christine or any of those guys. So um, yeah, so I have a lot of confidence going forward.
Yeah, no, definitely Cody, especially coming from that win in Caddo, right? So he won in Caddo, then you bump into him in Lake Gunnersville, and when we're talking about spawning season, you got Cody on the list. No lead is safe. I mean, you can,
No,
you can have 10-inch lead going into the final hour of the final day. If Cody Milton is there, uh, that may not be enough to
yeah,
win the tournament when it comes down to bed fishing. So
yeah. And we
props
talked
to
on the
you for
phone,
doing
and he jumped ahead of me, and then when I was on the phone with him, I caught one that jumped me ahead of him, and he's like, well, I'm just going out and throwing a big swim bait the rest of the day. I'm like, oh god, here we go. I thought I thought he was gonna get that big one. So, but yeah, it's fun. Rivalry between all of us, and sometimes we know we're all gonna have our time. So, and all of us are always kind of at the top. So we'd all be excited for each other when we get our wins, because we all know we're gonna get ours sooner or later.
definitely. And when you're surrounded, with by greatness, it's not, and that applies to everyone. When you surround yourself with greatness, it's going to make you better, and it's going to, you're going to achieve that because you're surrounded by it. So naturally,
Right.
you're going to gravitate towards that level. As far as upping your game, just being some of the great anglers out there, and you definitely are some of the great and have been before even this year. Going back to the national championship, and I wanted to ask you, considering, kind of like the pressure you were in when it talk to me about that last day where when did you realize you really had a shot at winning this?
It was really the first day of practice, honestly. When I
Really?
found those fish, I knew I'd found something special. I started marking them, and honestly, when I first started marking them, I'm like, man, these look like bass. But from what I know about this lake, the largemouth were going to be hard to find, and they just look like giants. And I made a cast and caught a 22 and a half on the first cast, and caught a 21 plus in the second, and threw back out there, and another one ate it. I let him swim with it, tried to reel it in, another one ate it. So I mean, and there was a lot of them there, so I knew what I was on, and I went and checked it every day of practice, and um, and just the way the weather was setting up, the way the wind was blowing. They had a bunch of bait pushed back there in that pocket, so I felt like it would help keep the bait in there. I just didn't, and then there was a roadbed that kind of ran alongside it. And like I said, I'm comfortable fishing deep if they had pulled off. I did catch my biggest fish on the first day on the roadbed. It was a 19 and a half. So not trying to hammer too much on those shallow fish. But yeah, first day of practice, I went to the house. I wasn't staying with Cody and all them, but I stopped at their house. I had a package delivered there, and we're sitting around talking. And I'd made a decision I was going to try to be more quiet about stuff I was doing and this year, and not give up too much and everything. And it was giving me a headache sitting there. And so suddenly I was just like, "So I'm going to win this one." Like, just blurted it something like that. And yeah, so they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I started talking about what I found and stuff, um, and I didn't honestly remember exactly how that went down, but Guillermo came up to me. He's like, "Yeah, you said you were going to win it." He's like, I remember it specifically because I thought it was pretty ballsy with all of us sitting around." You say that, but yeah, I do. If the conditions held up and everything, I was going to have a good chance to win. Um, it was kind of crazy to see Mickling come up and take the lead on me that first day because I felt like I was on uh, a pretty special bite. I didn't expect to see anybody on anything close, but yeah, you definitely gave me a run for my money.
And on the second day, when did you not know officially until you got to podium, or you already knew? Like, even if they hadn't told you, already looked at the board and said, "There's no way
No,
somebody
all I
got on this."
knew coming up toward the end of the day was I knew I was leading it. I hadn't seen Mickling really submit anything. Nobody was really close, and then I had my buddy Todd Patrick came and was drone filming me, and he's standing over the bank, and he watched me catch what ended up being the winning fish, and um, I caught that fish and landed it, and he's like, "What was that?" I was like, 17 and a quarter, I think it was, and he goes, "That gives you the lead back." I'm like, "Gives me it back?" I never knew I lost it. So that's when I started getting worried. I was like, man, and that last hour after they shut the board off, I probably caught. I knew Mickling's smallest was like a 15 or something, and I probably caught 10 over that in the last hour. So I'm like, there's no way he didn't catch one because all he needed was a quarter-inch upgrade. If we had tied, he would have beat me because he had a big fish on me. So um, I was, I really didn't think I had a chance to win. Um, I was, I did everything I could. I fished clean. I was happy with, what I did, no matter what. But yeah, it wasn't until we had our meeting and we started talking in the round table with Ike and Ellie, and he kept talking about how hard it was to get his fifth, and how, yeah, kept talking about how he got five, and he was so hard to get his fifth, and he got his fifth late, and all this. And that's what started me thinking maybe I got this because I was like, if he only got five, then I beat him. So that's what got me when I really started thinking maybe I had it.
Who came in second? And I completely forgot.
Um,
Uh,
John Mickling.
John Mickling.
Yeah.
That is awesome, man. And again, super happy for you. You did that, and then since then you've kind of gone on a tear. Like, you did not rest on your laurels here. You've pretty much have just gone on complete tear. We just talked about or mentioned that you were in Gunnersville bed fishing, which is not your strong suit, and yet you hammered it. What did you find on Gunnersville? Because you and I were talking to pre-recording, and you and I did the same thing. Now, I was fishing Lake Whitney local tournament here in Texas, and I was doing the exact same thing you were doing, but for whatever reason, my results were a lot less favorable than yours. You obviously got that big win at Gunnersville. What did you find in Gunnersville, and how did you adapt so quickly to do, the bed fishing thing?
Well, I started out by going to a creek that I really like. You could kind of get a good idea with the shallow bite or deep bite of what's going on there, and that's where I started. And I saw a lot of beds, a lot of shallow fish, and then I over the next couple days hit some areas and after hearing what Cody was on, what he had found, he was on some giants up on beds, so I knew I was going to have to find some big bed fish to compete with him. So I started, hitting places that I thought would be good. I went to a place on Thursday and managed to catch a 23 incher and felt pretty good about that area. Um, Cowed that one off a bed, and then when I went Friday, it was so busy. Everywhere I thought I would look out there, there was a boat, or there was kayaks, or multiple boats and kayaks. Every pocket, every point, everything. So I went back to looking at my map, and I see this area that was down the river a little bit, down the lake, and just looking at the conditions on the lake, I felt like nobody would probably even try to go there. So I made the run. It was about 2 miles, and got up there and started checking. There was about 20 docks there in this pocket, and I started checking them, and every single one had multiple beds on it. And so I started marking the beds. Then I started seeing, some definitely had better fish on them. So I started marking those with a waypoint on my fish finder. I would use the Lowrance has so many different emojis you could use. So I'd
Yeah.
mark one with a sun, one with a heart, one with a phone. And when I'd mark it, I try to mark anything over 18 or so. And when I'd mark it, I would put a little note in my phone like the sun is behind the blue dock, on the walkway between the second and third post and stuff like that. So that's how I marked them, and I found one dock that had better fish on it. Some looked like some big ones, some around 20 inches. So I went straight there in the morning, started there, caught the first one. The bed was right along the left side, and caught the first one was like 18 and a quarter on a jackhammer. And then I went to the Cinco, and there was a big one swimming around in the middle of the dock. There was a couple tires and I had marked that bed, and I knew right where it was. Made the cast with the Cinco and hooked into that one. That was a 20 and a half. Then moved off and caught another on the right side of the dock. There was another one. I think that ended up being a 17 and a half or so. So I was able just to, and then I had another one marked around the corner. Went over there and pulled in, and that one ended up being I think 19 and a half. So I was just kind of sneaking up on them. I knew exactly where the beds were, and just kind of snuck up there and just flipped the Cinco over there real quiet, and was able to get them to bite. And I think all the fish I ended up keeping I caught in the first hour and a half or so.
That was on day one.
Day one, Gunnersville, yeah.
Yeah. And what about? And you actually won day one of the trail series, right?
Right, yeah.
And you want and you also and I apologize, I try to keep up with all the changes Kbf. So you had that simultaneously you're going through the pro series as well, right? And you won
Right.
that one as well, right?
Nope, came second in that one.
Came second. Okay.
Yep. So day two was a lot different. At the end of the day, on day one, after I got my limit and felt pretty good about it, I had some other beds marked that I felt like the boats can really get to. Some of these docks were pretty tight, so I kind of left them alone, and I went looking for about 5 hours. I had a lot of free time, so I decided to run around and see if I could find some bigger fish, and really didn't find anything I really liked. So I ended up coming back, and when I came back, I saw a lot of debris and stuff getting like pushed up in there, and with the weather that was coming in the second day, I was kind of worried about it. And when I went in there the morning of the second day, there was just a lot of debris, eelgrass, floating logs, and stuff that I'd pushed in there. And I ended up bailing on the docks and throwing a jackhammer in the grass, like kind of out in front, like in the middle of the pocket. And I picked up 18, 18 three quarters or something, and a 16 three quarter. And and then the weather got really bad. The wind started blowing off the main lake and pushing even more stuff, and I kind of almost had to wait it out. Really, I couldn't do anything because I was in this, not huge pocket right off the main lake, and the weather was terrible. But as after that passed, I was able to move around to this other pocket that I had that I knew there was fish in. It was a pretty busy area with boats on day one, but there wasn't really anybody around on the second day. I think that bad weather on the lake helped keep them out. So I pulled into there and went against some riprap against the bank and caught a 19 and a half. And then after that, it was just on. I caught probably 25 and back in that pocket, just one after the other. Um, Pretty well the rest of the day, and was able to cull up enough to to get Cody by a quarter inch at the end of the day. But yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah,
I was
man,
happy I was able to
congratulations.
find some other fish to keep me up there.
Yeah, that speaks to, the ability to just adjust to the circumstances, right? Because I think at the end of the day, and definitely you qualify as, like we mentioned, as one of the top anglers. Um, but I think one of the thing that separates, kind of like, I shouldn't say man from the boys because kind of sounds like I'm being sexist. Yes, I know there's females anglers, but let's just say the kids from the adults.
Yeah.
Um, the ability to adapt, make changes. One of the things that I was really taken back talking to Rolando Nandin, who won in Toledo Bend, is like he had the biggest bag on day one, and day two he went to a completely different area. And I was like, why the heck would you not go to the same spot at least? Starting off, knowing that you pretty much blew away the competition on the day one. And he's like, I saw what the weather was doing. And I figured, and it was going to be a drastic change from one day to the other. So he went to a completely different part of the lake. And I was like, I am way, way behind that learning curve. Yeah, like I look at that and I'm thinking, I'm just trying to figure out where I can find 5 bass, let alone just being able to read the weather and um, anticipate what the bass are going to do from less than 24 hours, really, and make the adjustment even before you hit the water. That is something that I think, like we mentioned, separates you from the pack and a lot of other great anglers. So props to you for that, man. It shows the experience that in all these years that you've done this. I wanted to ask you about something because on the pre-recording, I asked you what you do for work, and you actually your job is actually to go kayak bass fishing, like quote unquote the term that a lot of people hate, the PKA, professional kayak
Right.
angler. Your thoughts on that? As making one of the handful of people that are doing this for literally like a life work. What do you think of the term PKA, and how do you see it moving forward?
Well, I think that term was actually coined with a guy who kind of moved in on me at the national championship on Gunnersville. Kind of followed me around and threw a wrench in my game, let's say, for a couple days, and that's what he called me and Christine Fisher uh, when he saw us go in there and practice or something. A couple of PKs went in there, so that's kind of where
Oh
that
yeah,
came from. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I know, like Cody has to deal with it as much as anybody does, and he drives around with that big billboard. So I know when he's parked at a ramp, that ramp's going to get some extra attention.
yeah,
So sometimes I'll try to stay away from that ramp myself. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like you know, burning your ships. If you really want to do something, uh, I I kind of have to cast a check at a lot of tournaments, especially to keep doing it, to keep going, and provide and everything. So it gives you that extra, kind of kick in the butt to go that extra little bit to make sure you're cashing a check at every event. A lot of
yeah, and
times I'd like to go have some beers with the guys. I'm known for having a good time. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes I'm better than I would be when I know I got to cash a check in this event or something.
kind of perform under pressure thing.
Hmm.
What I was about to ask. Let's Now I lost the train of thought. Wanted to ask you. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you. We talk about what it means for you personally winning the national championship. As far from the business side of it, talking about sponsorships and putting your name out there. And obviously, one of the big attractions of the Bassmaster Kayak Series is the national championship. Although it may not have the prestigious elite level type like the OBTOC or the cash that would come with winning the national championship, the KBF, it does have the factor that it's a company that attract a lot of attention as far as sponsorship, endemic and non-endemic. How has that helped you in in your livelihood winning the national championship? Any sponsorship that comes out of that? Any, more FaceTime, I more doing more podcasts, doing more interviews. How's that affected
Yeah, definitely doing a lot more podcasts. But
you?
yeah, definitely picked up some good sponsors and got you know sponsors I've had for a while to kind of step up and do a little more for me and stuff like that. Understanding, especially with gas the way it is right now, like
Yeah,
it's not easy to travel and especially I know how it is. I've seen it with some of my buddies. When you haven't won for a while, it gets to be really tough. When you're not at least covering expenses and stuff like that. Um, it gets to be pretty. You get pretty desperate pretty quick. So it's nice not having to worry about that. I've got a lot of great sponsors behind me. I have had some really good sponsors behind me, but now it's definitely made things a little bit easier with that big signature win. They have me in the Bass Times this
yeah.
month, so that was pretty cool to see. Um, so they definitely are stepping up and starting to give the kayak guys a little more recognition when they do stuff. So yeah, that's good to see. But
When we're on the usually we have on the kind of like our conversations on podcasts and in privately and on the recordings a lot of times within ourselves podcasters and um, national level kayak anglers. Uh, there's always the question is what's next as far as the growth for the sport and making it more viable or accessible to people to make a living out of it. In your opinion, what do you think needs the next step in the evolution of the growth of the sport?
I think we need to see more sponsors kind of outside of the fishing industry coming in, getting involved. That's where a lot of the money is. So the a lot of the fishing companies that help us, and a lot of them do a lot and stuff. But I really think it's gonna take some sponsors coming from the outside, putting up some money to kind of get us to the next level. Um, Bassmaster is big because of the name and everything,
Yeah,
as far as recognition goes, and a big step in toward that direction. And I think getting toward a legitimate pro series, um, that'll be a big step in the right direction, and getting some sponsorship, outside of the industry to support something like that.
definitely. Would you at any point would you like to see this like live TV kind of like what they're doing on or that's something that would you think is that something let me ask you this way. I know it's going to help out, right? But is that something like you yourself from the enjoyment part of it, keeping the business side of it, are you like, looking forward to maybe having a camera, you know, on a pole on the back of you recording on your while you're doing everything or, whatever it is. I think at some point the technology is going to match the ambition where you can see maybe live drone footage, boats following you around with a live camera. Do you would you embrace that at an action, or as far as you're concerned, for your enjoyment, you just want to go fish, and just catch a check if you do?
Yeah, I just like fishing, honestly, but I think that's definitely needed to get to the next level. Bassmasters, they've started doing that. They had a boat out there filming me. They had a drone, all that stuff. Hobie does it too, and if they, think you're gonna be on the fish that week, they'll put a camera on your boat and stuff. For me, like when I'm outside of that, I don't bring a camera a whole lot. I've started doing it a little more this year, just because I hate editing video, and it's been, uh, like I said, I just want to fish, and it's another thing to have to deal with,
Yeah,
and everything. And I just like focusing on fishing. I know I should do more, but yeah, I think it'll be good to have KBBT and KFL. They're doing some things where they're gonna have the anglers on camera, and I think people will really enjoy that. Enjoy seeing how people fish a tournament throughout the day and everything. So that'll definitely get more people watching. That's one of the big differences between us and what the boats do is they have camera guys out there following them all the time. If they didn't have that, they wouldn't have the
yeah.
sponsorships and everything that they have. So I think we're definitely gonna have to get to that point It's a little harder for us because we can't have a camera guy on
Yeah,
our kayak with us. But with the way like Hobie and Bassmaster have been doing, having a boat follow us around, that can definitely be something that happens in the future.
definitely. Action cameras too, like GoPros and all that. If I know some of them have the capability of going live, but it's not.
Hmm.
It's not that that technology is still far away from just kind of having it broadcast on live streaming or even a cable TV or something like. I would say I've seen a couple of like um, uh, live recordings of sports that are kind of obscure, and this is where I'm going with. Like, I see Red Bull Channel, which is a streaming service. They do their whole like mountain biking trails. It's all over the world. They go from Africa, Europe, South America, and this guys just travel the world on their mountain bikes. And every month they just go down, do the whole mountain bike thing. It's actually live recorded, and then the following week they'll come out with a condensed highlight version of it. I can see that with the um, kayak bass fishing somewhere down the line where it's the when the technology is there that they can be able to do, hey, we'll do like 8 hours live of this, but it wouldn't be cable TV, of course, but it would be something like a channel dedicated for outdoors where we'll do even who knows, maybe something like Red Bull. We see like what is it, that sport they play a lot in Canada, curling. And
Hmm.
I've seen that on, like, what is it, ESPN 3 or ESPN 2, one of those. I'm like, if they can have that, we can definitely have kayak bass fishing as a live
Right,
sport. It's just a matter of the technology matching
right.
the ambition of it.
Yeah,
Um,
and I know Eric Jackson does a little different kind of kayak fishing a lot of time, a lot of different kind of kayaking. But he's got Red Bull and Fat Tire is a sponsor of his, and he was fishing this last tournament on Gunnersville and brought us a big cooler of Fat Tire to relax that second day after the tournament was over. So that was nice. So uh, he's a big part of the sport, and
yep.
so I think he's one of the guys who can um, help us get there. A lot of those guys like that
Yep.
who sponsor the industry can kind of help bring them on.
Yeah, we sometimes kind of overlooked Eric Jackson's name, but he really is kind of really one of the founding fathers
Yeah.
when it comes to kayak uh, fishing in general. Even though he wasn't like a true kayak fisherman until later on, but he really has with Jackson Kayaks when he owned it and everything. He really is one of the founding fathers, and deserves a lot of respect from our industry, from the kayak fishing community. Um, Going back to Gunnersville, you had a cool story. Found a little hole in the wall place or truck where you found some beers and decided the beer was so good that it warranted to stop free fishing for a whole day. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about
Yeah.
that. That's a Bass Kayak and Beers epic story.
Yeah, so me and Cody Millen and Christine Fisher ended up going to the same area on Wednesday, pre-fishing, and it it was pretty good. I actually when I started smelling some really good barbecue, and there's a place, Casey's Barbecue, right there. And I pulled up there and I actually caught a like 16, and I stood up and I saw a 23 incher right there swimming around, and I was like, wow. But I talked to Cody on the phone. I'm like, this barbecue smells too good. I'm pulling up here and eating. He's like, all right, I'm coming. So then we called Christine, and she said, all right, I'm on my way. So we all went in there, ate some barbecue, and we got some beer there, and it ended up being it's called uh, Truck Stop Back 40, and it was awesome. So we're talking about how good the beer is and eating. And we finish and we head out and start fishing some more, catch a few fish, and all of us kind of couldn't stop thinking about that beer. So we ended up just hanging it up for the day, heading back to the barbecue place and sat out there on the deck. And I got a little video of them trying to catch that 23 incher from the deck while we're drinking that back 40. And, we just sat around there all day drinking, and we ended up calling Matt Scotch. He came over there and hung out with us for a little bit and everything. So it was a good day. We gave up a day of pre fishing to do it, but it was definitely worth it. That'll be uh, we'll remember that a lot longer than we would remember that day of pre fishing, I think. And We also still did ended up doing pretty good in the tournament, so it didn't hurt us too bad.
Yeah, no, I mean that's part of it. If you're not enjoying it, if you're always pressured on catching fish and not enjoying it, then was it all for? So,
Right.
those kind of things kind of outweigh some of the labor side of it. Going back to what you're talking about, the social media, that's something that I really found that uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Something that is, I guess, I overestimated. I thought you just get a camera, go record, put up a video, and all that. And I recently started doing YouTube videos for being Spanish my main language. So I started a YouTube channel in Spanish, kind of like Fluke Master, but in Spanish, because I
Hmm.
don't see a lot of people out there teaching in Spanish. And I've talked to a lot of people being from Puerto Rico, like guys that are and girls that want to learn more about bass fishing, but we don't have the resources, teaching resources, right? And when we talk about, like what rods, what reels, I think there's a lot of information that can be shared. But going back to the reason why doing the YouTube channel, there when you get on the water, I totally relate what you're saying because I you really have to discipline yourself to do something, even though you would think on the back of your mind, oh, this is easy. I'm gonna be on the water. Let's just do this. But once you're on the water, I mean, once I'm on the water, I completely forget about recording. I completely forget about the GoPro, even it's running. I completely forget that I have to talk and that I have to share and that I have to have B-roll videos and I have to stop actually fishing to do recording and taking pictures and get a little bit of the wildlife. And it's something that you kind of have to weigh it because a lot of times, like once I'm there on the water, even though it seems a little straightforward, I'm like, I just want to fish. I don't care about making a video. So I kind of understand what you're saying. That's why I respect a lot of this kayak anglers that are actually putting YouTube content because you really have to love doing the YouTube content thing because it's time consuming. If you really care about what putting quality to your name, you have to like edit it out, and select background music and select the right cut and not make it too long. And you constantly have to start talking to the camera because you have to figure people are listening. They just don't want you to be sitting quiet hooking. It's not a highlight reel of you hooking into fish with some background music. There's a lot of like storytelling behind it. Sometimes I have to put the rod down, put on the drone and start taking like videos of the area and stuff like that, stuff that it's taking me away from fishing, which is what I love doing. So I have a lot of respect for that, and I completely understand now taking part in tournaments, doing the whole pre-fishing and doing the whole YouTube content. I understand why now there's always that kind of like difference between, okay, there's the content creator angler and the tournament angler, and you very hardly see somebody that does both at the same high level. The only one that really comes to mind to me is Christine
Yeah,
Fisher.
she's my hero.
Uh,
I don't know how she does
yeah,
it.
and
I
when
don't
you
know
look
how.
at
She's so
and
good
when
at it too.
yes, but and when you look at her videos are really. It's not like, and obviously she's not putting this whole montage of B rolls and background music. It's just bare to the
Hmm.
bone. This is me
Right.
fishing. I'm going to narrate what happens, and it's captivating. I enjoy it because you
Hmm.
learned a lot. But it's not the John B entertainment type video or the a next level fishing TV, which is not really showing you what happened in the tournament because there is no tournament. It's just guys or girls just going out in the water, enjoying the water. So there is a difference in videos. So I mean mad props because the only one that I comes to mind is Christian Fisher. Greg Blanchard's another one that comes to
Hmm.
mind. But when we're talking about, you know, he's more of a YouTube content creator than a tournament angler. Not that he's not a great tournament angler, but when you're talking about Russ Snyder, Christian Fisher, Guillermo Sales, Eric Siddiqui, that's the next level tournament anglers.
Hmm.
It's just there's the elite group within the elite group, and only other than Christian Fisher, I don't see a lot of other people doing it, and
It's
I
hard to
have a
even
lot of
find
respect.
time to do both.
Yeah,
I mean, to when you're trying to prepare for a tournament and everything, and it's hard to film and then edit stuff and find the time to do all that. A lot of times you only have enough time to find something to eat, and then rig up some stuff for the next day and try to get a few hours of sleep before you got to get up and do it again. So yeah, it gets it's really hard to do both.
Yeah, and it's not just okay. I put up a GoPro in my kayak and I record. It's the whole just to put a 15-minute video. It'll take me like 3 full days of just
Mm,
editing, trying to find some background music, just the whole
right.
thing, just to put a quality video on it. So when you look at it, it's like, how much am I getting paid an hour? Oh, that's right, nothing.
Right.
At least at the beginning. So yeah, there's a go rabbit hole we can go down in some other conversation. But definitely, Eric, I want to again congratulations on what you've done this season. Like we said uh, at the beginning, you've definitely earned it. It's time we kind of put some respect into that Eric Siddiqi name. Um, and when you're looking now at the rest of the season, anything marked on your calendar you're looking forward to that you want to accomplish this season, other than what you already have?
Um, I'm a little behind because I skipped Lake Fork to watch the Bengals in the Super Bowl, but I still have a shot at Bassmaster AOI, and I'm pretty excited about the last two tournaments, Smith Lake and Pickwick, which is really where I taught myself how to bass fish was Pickwick Lake. So if I can do well at Smith Lake, I'll give myself a chance at Pickwick to go for that, and I would just like to get a win there anyways, just because it's my uh, as close to a home leg as really I've got, I would say. Um, and a few years back, I was pretty close at on a KBF event and had a rudder cable snap on me when I was leading it, and I ended up dropping to third in that one, so that one kind of hurt. So I'm really hoping to get a win there at Pickwick. There's a KBF on uh, St. Clair's is always one of my favorite lakes. It's a St. Clair Lake Erie tournament, so I'm looking forward to that one. And then as far as Hobie goes, there's one on Chickamauga, and you know, really any lake on the Tennessee River, I'm happy to go to, and Chick's a special place too. So uh, I'm I'm really interested to see how that one works out too.
Well, we wish you the best on all of them. Let me ask you one more question before I let you go. Well, actually, I got a couple more, but going into winning the national championship, obviously that's been the highlight of your career so far. Is there any other? When we talk about the national level, right? There's the KBN 10, which I think that's a prestigious tournament, just because it's hard to qualify. It's only 10 of you. There's the national champions KBF, which I think of all of them pays the most. There's the Hobie BOS, which which kind of like the elite, kind of like if you win there, you really won against really the top 50 anglers in the nation, in my opinion. And then there's the national championship, which you already won. It brings you a lot of attention to your name and your brand. Which one? You already got the national championship. Is there any other that would top what you did in your mind? Would like winning the TOC or the KBF national championship would be higher or equal or lower than what you already accomplished in the Bassmaster national championship?
Um, I think the TOC is a little harder to qualify for, so that's a huge one. You're up against the best of the best, but in a lot of these tournaments, you're up against the best of the best already, and then you've got everybody else to deal with on top of it. Um, the KBF National Championship, I think, would be a big one because that was my first big event. I fished every one since 2017, I believe, was the first one, maybe 16, and so that would be that would be a huge one. But um, yeah, I'd like to win them all, really.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. You do.
Yeah.
But the question is, would there be one more that tops the other?
I don't know if there would be one more. I've always wanted to get that championship. I got that under my belt, but I think I have to say the KBF would be the sweetest one, just because I've been dreaming about winning that one for longer than I have since it's been around longer than the Hobie
Yeah.
Championship has. So I think that one would probably be the sweetest one to win. Um, yeah, I think that would be a good one. Also, I've got the World Championships this year, so it would be pretty cool to be world champion. Also, going to Sweden in August for the Hobie World Championships. We're finally able to have it. COVID's finally allowing us to be able to
Yeah.
have it, so that'd be a good one too.
What do you fish for in Sweden? I have to find
Uh,
out more information about the World Champs. I have very little knowledge about it, but I know it's a thing.
Yeah,
Typically bring.
pike and perch is what we'll be going after. And yeah, actually, I won a tournament on Lake St. Clair to qualify for that one. And I fished the World Championships, the previous World Championships in Australia, Gold Coast, Australia. So that was an amazing experience. So I'm really excited to get back to that. It's pretty neat having guys from across the world, that same
Yeah.
love for kayak fishing and getting to talk with them and have a good time. And Hobie puts on a great event there. So uh, that's exciting.
Yeah, no, Hobie World is something that, again, when we talk about kayak bass fishing, sometimes we get that tunnel vision of just, it's just kayak bass fishing, but really kayak fishing is, there's a lot bigger world out there,
Mm.
especially when you're trying to make a living out of it. Let me ask you something else. On when it comes to the Bassmaster Kayak Series, I know a lot of people it's kind of been disappointed with the progression. You've kind of a lot of people, me myself included, expected more out of it. We really want to see Bassmaster Kayak Series take it to the next level, right? It's not just as a fan, but we want those national tournament anglers like yourself and all the ones that we mentioned to really be able to make a living out of it. And I think a lot of it's going to be predicated on the Bassmaster success. There's been a lot of stumbles coming out of the gate here in the third season. On your mind, what would you like to see the Bassmaster Kayak Series improve on for next season?
Um, I'd like to see them just kind of promote it a little bit more, promote the anglers a little bit more on their social media and on their magazine and stuff, and kind of I think it'd be hard for them not to see like how big kayak fishing is, even if you go to the show, the
Yeah,
Bassmaster. It's kayak fishing everywhere. So, and I walked into the waterfront bait and tackle at Gunnersville, and the guy was telling me, he's like, we can't tell the difference between you kayak fishermen and the boaters anymore. You come in and you buy the same stuff. Unless we talk to you, we don't know whether you're a kayak fisherman or a boater. So I think that says a lot. So I'd like to see them kind of um, start giving some of the kayak guys the kind of promotion that they give the boaters. Um, but get to 100% payout like KBF and Hobie really. You win one of those events, you're cashing a pretty big check, especially in their championship. So
yeah.
um, yeah, I'd like to see them kind of get there.
We'll see. Hopefully, season four is going to be more of a an improvement than what we've seen the last 3 years. But yeah, like we mentioned, we want, we may all have our opinions about it, and we may not always agree with what direction they're going. But what we do, I think we all agree on, is we want them to reach the level because they're the every one of us, at least in our kind of like age, is grew up watching Bassmasters.
Right.
So it's there's a mystique or uh, you know attached to it more so than fishing Hobie or KBF. I mean, Hobie does a great job. AJ McWhorter does a great job, but just the Bassmaster Kayak Series is just like it's one
Yeah,
of
it's
those
been
sports that has created generations of bass fishermen just because it's been there the longest, and you want to see that same success they've done with the bass boat, taking that popularity to be able to apply that to the kayak bass fishing. So we'll see. Before I let you go, Eric, I wanted to do a couple of kind of rapid, quick questions, fun questions. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. If you couldn't fish for bass, what type of fish would you be targeting?
I do like red fishing. Those fish are
Nice.
fun to catch. They're not super hard to catch, which sometimes is nice, but they put up a good fight. So I do like red fishing.
Definitely. I think that's the number one answer I get when I ask. Usually it's either, yeah, it's usually bass red fishing. I haven't yet to hear anybody say I'll be fishing for sturgeon or anything like that. I haven't heard that one, but that's the good one. Favorite rod and reel setup that you have or use?
um, Probably like a 7.4 heavy with a um, Shimano Bantam. Seven, I think it might be a faster reel, an A1 maybe.
Nice. That is a nice setup. If you can only fish one lure for the rest of your life, what lure would that be?
Jig.
Jig. Any particular jig, brand, color?
Mm, um, I like that's a tough one. I love fishing swim jigs and structure jigs and football jigs. If I catch them on a jig, I'm happy. Catch them on a frog's fun, but the hookup ratio and and stuff isn't always great on those. But that is a fun bite. But I love catching them on a jig. One of my favorite things is setting the hook. So a jig you can fish slow, and when they eat it, you get to hammer them. So that's what I love about it.
Definitely. Um, Assuming you don't have this already, what is your dream kayak setup? Brand, model, fish finder, all the bells and whistles that you could dream of using on a kayak. What would be your describe me what would be your dream kayak setup if you already not fishing out of it, or if you're already fishing?
Well, I'm fishing out of a Hobie 180 right now, and I can't tell you how many times I've thought how nice it would be to be able to go sideways. So, PA 14 360 would probably be what I'd like to go to, and then double Lowrance HDS 9 lives. You know, one running the active target, which they just sent me. So big shout out to Lowrance for that. And I've just gotten started playing with that thing, and it's really cool. So that's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna help me or not this year. I've so far wasted a lot of time with it, but it's definitely super cool, and I can see it definitely help me in the future. Um, so yeah, that I think that would probably be the way to go. And Torpedo 1103, those things are awesome. Yeah, I mean, if you kayak fish, you definitely need the best of the best if you're going to compete in tournaments, and that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you that extra edge, especially when, like you said, when you're doing this for a living, it you can use all the help you get. But that
Hmm.
is a sweet setup, no doubt.
Yeah.
Eric, I wanted to give you a couple of minutes to shout out anybody you want to shout out, sponsors, family, anybody that's helped you with your kayak fishing growth. Go ahead and take as much time as you need.
Yeah. Shout out to my family for man for putting up with all the traveling. My boys, especially, I know it's not easy on them, especially this time of year. Um, Big shout out to Dakota Lithium. It'd be hard to do this without them. They take care of my lodging and keep me powered on the water and everything. So um, big shout out to them. Stormy, he always takes care of us, anything we need. So that's huge. Fishing online, I've been with them for a long time, and if I know if I need anything, you know, before a tournament, they'll do everything they can to get it to me. So that's been a huge help over the years. Um, I just had Yak Power send me a whole new system. That's the best system on the market, in my opinion. Um, so I've been using that for probably 5 years now, and that matched up with the Dakota. I don't really. I remember when I started, I used to have to uh, wonder in the morning if my fish finder was even going to turn on. You know, I'd hit that button, and then when I hear
Yeah,
that beep, I'd be like, "Yeah." Always a good day when the fish
not
finder turns on in the morning. But
an easy morning, right? Until it turns
don't
on.
have to worry about it as much anymore. So that's nice. I wrote down on the list. Lowrance, of course. Um, Yak Attack. Been using. I been using the same Yak Attack net for the landing net for probably 8 years now.
Really?
And yeah, and when I was out on Gunnersville on Thursday when I caught that 23, I must have had it come off when I got to the ramp or something like that. And I didn't realize it until I got out the next day. I went to the launch in the same area and realized I didn't have my net. And I'm like, oh man. And I was like, maybe it came off where I caught that 23 back there. There's a lot of stuff back there. Maybe it got pulled off or something. I went and looked and couldn't find it. Went back to pre-fishing, found my fish, got back to the ramp, and I was actually standing there at the ramp, rigging up something for bed fishing, trying out a little setup, and I was flipping it over, looking at it, and I happened to look over and I see the back end of my net sticking out of the water. And I'm like, no way. So I went and grabbed that. I haven't been that happy in a while. I was pretty excited when I found that. So, I was like, this is going to be a good tournament. And then I won the next
Yeah.
day. So, so yeah, I love that, the Yak Attack landing net. So let's see. Power pole, the bomb anchors, that was also a big deal. When that wind picked up, um, on Saturday when I was bed fishing, I tied that thing to, um, the line I got tied to the front, threw it out there, and was able to do some bed fishing with that thing. They actually named one after me, the Eric Siddiqi edition. It's a
Oh,
green
nice.
anchor, so that's the one I was using. Detroit Grooming is a beard oil company that I use. It's a sponsor I picked up after the classic. Buck and Bass makes amazing rain gear. I actually talked to them before the classic, and they offered me a deal, and I was like, "We'll talk when we get there." And then I went and won the tournament, so was able to get them to sponsor me, and I've needed some good rain gear for a while, and that stuff's awesome. So check that out. Um, Mainstream Outdoors been helping me out up in Michigan. Z-Man is another one. I've been using their products for a long time. Everybody loves the jackhammer. I won my first tournament on a Ned rig, so up in La Crosse. So big shout out to them. And St. Croix Rods is a new sponsor of mine I just picked up. So I've been using their rods for a long time. I actually have a video of me catching a 25.5 incher down in Florida on a Legend. So
Wow.
um, yeah. So yeah, I think that's about it. Torpedo mentioned. I think that's all. I actually wrote them down this time because I can never remember all of them.
Well, that's good, man. That speaks to your level of commitment to the sport and your hard work. You don't get that many sponsors just by kind of sitting on your laurels there. So congratulations, you've definitely earned that. We wish you the best moving forward. Hopefully you're not in Broken Bow. Are you? What's your next tournament going to be?
Yeah, Broken Bow.
Oh God, I'll take that back.
Yeah, I didn't
That
fish
seems
it last year, so yeah, it looks like Cool Lake. I've heard the roads aren't the best around it, so
yeah.
yeah, it should be an interesting tournament though. The house Dakota got us looks awesome though. I don't know how focused I'm gonna be. There's a Miss Pac-Man machine and an NBA Jam machine along with the
Oh
shuffleboard
man,
table. So
NBA Jam.
and yeah, yeah. So you should stop by and play a little bit. It looks
Yeah,
pretty
man,
cool.
and get that when you get that fireball.
Oh yeah, on
Yeah,
fire. Yeah,
you're on fire. That's the best
yeah,
part.
yeah. You're telling me.
Yeah. We'll definitely hope to see you there, man. It's gonna be exciting. Really
Yeah,
excited to be
it's
Broken
gonna be a
Bow.
fun tournament.
Yeah, and I've already recorded a couple of episodes with other anglers, and seems like it's gonna be a lot of big names, going into Broken Bow. So it makes it all the more exciting and the more enjoyable whenever you catch a check. So
Right.
excited about that, man. Wish you the best, seriously, moving forward for the rest of the season and beyond. And again, Eric, thank you for blessing the podcast and coming up to the show. I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate it. Any last words before we let you go?
No, looking forward to seeing everybody at the next one. Hope I beat you.
I'm sure the sentiment is reciprocated.
Yeah.
But for those out there listening, if you made it this far, appreciate it. Thank you again, and thank you for Eric for joining us. Go check out the sponsor, DouglasOutdoors.com. Have a great day, everyone. If you're gonna be on the water, please be responsible. Wear your PFDs. If you're gonna have a couple of beers, stay safe and be responsible. So have a great night, everyone.